Hi everyone, this is Jordan
and Jillian from Lovely Loops, and we wanted to make this quick video about brush pens because we remember how frustrating it was at the beginning when we had no idea what the basics were.
So first we're going to quickly talk about supplies, and in front of us here we have a brush pen. This is a Tombow dual brush pen. It has a large tip. There are also small tipped brush pens,
such as this Pentel, but we're going to focus on large tip for now because it's a lot easier to see the tip and what you're doing when you have a larger size.
We're also going to be using this marker paper right here, which is very smooth, and it's important to use smooth paper so your brush pens don't get frayed. So as Jillian is writing with a brush pen, just pay attention to how it looks and sounds. You might have heard it squeaking. So the reason that it's squeaking is because she's adding more pressure to make some thick lines. And the difference between the thick lines and the thin lines is what makes it look like calligraphy. And by the way, all of the thick lines are along the downstrokes.
So now Jordan's going to show you some different strokes. So as she's writing, you can see that the line is gradually getting a little bit wider or thicker, and that means that she's pressing harder. So because the tip is flexible, you can make a range of thicknesses, and you can hear specifically with this pen, because of the tip, it's making that squeaky noise. Don't worry, you're not ruining your brush pen as long as you're holding it and not pressing too upright, which we'll talk about in a second. But you can see we have a range of thicknesses, and those thin strokes are the upstrokes and the thick strokes are the downstrokes.
So the important part is that you get a contrast between thick lines by pressing down really hard and thin lines by pressing down not as hard.
So if you're pressing down harder on your pen to get a thicker stroke, but the thicker stroke isn't appearing, there are two things that you can look for.
The first is how upright your pen is to the paper. So if I hold my pen really upright like this, and I press down and try to get a thick line, even though I'm pressing pretty hard, it's not really making that thick of a line, and that's because my pen is really upright to the page.
That's also a good way to ruin your pens, so we would not recommend holding your pen like that.
So instead of holding it up and down, we recommend holding it at more of a 45-degree angle, and I'm pressing down the same amount as I was before, but the line is a lot thicker. The second thing to watch out for is the angle that your hand is holding the pen. So if you are trying to draw a thick stroke in this direction and your pen is going in this direction, I'm pressing down really hard, but it's not making a thick line, and that's because the pen is moving in the same direction that I'm going. So if I rotate my hand, or you can rotate your paper, and just go in the opposite direction, I'm pressing down the same amount and I'm getting a thick line here, versus if I hold it this way, it's not getting a thick line.
A good way to practice would be alternating thick strokes with thin strokes. So thick, remember, we're going down, and thin, we're coming up. So the goal is to get consistency between your strokes. So all of your thins should be the same as each other. All of the thicks should be the same as each other. Now, we also want to look for contrast. So the thin should be less wide than thick. You don't have to make the thin like as thin as the line could possibly be, like that. That's really hard to do, and it makes your line a little bit shakier. So just get some consistency. You could do a couple thick strokes, a couple thin strokes, just to get sort of used to the brush pen. Now, if you are brand new to this, you'll probably notice that your thin strokes are going to be a little bit shakier than your thick ones. That's totally normal. It's just because your hand isn't used to that kind of pressure on your pen. So let's put this into practice with a word. I'm going to write the word hi, and think about all these things that we've been talking about where we're making thin upstrokes and then pressing down to get thick downstrokes. Also pay attention to the speed and notice how I'm going slowly and focusing on each individual stroke. It may have surprised you how slowly she was writing the word hi, but speed is really important. Going slowly and really focusing on each stroke as you draw it is so important, and I know on Instagram you see all of these sped up videos, but we really go this slowly when we write in brush lettering. We hope these tips were helpful so that you understand how to use a brush pen and you're not so frustrated when you get started. It is going to take some time to get used to this new tool, but we wish you all the best, and thank you so much for watching. If you like more videos and tutorials, please subscribe to our channel.